The wind on the outer colony world was cold and dry, blowing dust across the broken metal of what used to be a human outpost. Lieutenant Mark Danner stood alone among the ruins, his breathing slow, calm but his hands tight on the rifle. Silence wasn't normal. He had learned in the last year of war that when everything went quiet, death was close. He was supposed to be scouting enemy movements. A simple mission, in and out. But now he realized something was very wrong. Then he heard the soft hum of anti-gravity engines. Before he could turn, a beam of bright blue light hit the ground in front of him. He dove to the side, rolled behind a broken wall, and fired blindly. The return fire came immediately, precise and deadly. They weren't drones. These were trained soldiers. He ducked low, heart pounding. Volari commandos. The most feared alien warriors in the Dominion fleet. They moved like shadows, silent and fast. Mark had heard stories. Humans who encountered them rarely survived. He ran through the wreckage, through smoke and broken steel. But they were faster, smarter. He felt a stun shot hit his leg, and pain exploded up his side. He dropped to the ground with a cry, the world spinning. Boots approached. Not human. Four-toed. Heavy-armored. Then a voice sharp, cold, and somehow female. "Secure the prisoner," she ordered. Mark tried to lift his rifle again, but a hard kick knocked it from his hand. Arms grabbed him, rough and metallic, and forced him up. His helmet was pulled off, and he looked straight into the silver eyes of Commander Zira, Vex the Volari butcher. Her armor was dark, covered in alien runes, and her face had a scar running from her jaw to her temple. "Lieutenant Mark Danner," she said without emotion. "You are now a guest of the Dominion." Mark spat blood at her feet. "Then kill me already." No anger, no smile, just that cold stare. "Not yet," she said. The Volari soldiers tied his hands, but even they seemed confused. Some looked at each other. One muttered in their native tongue, shaking his head. Mark didn't understand the words, but he understood. Ferrandi's guards looked nervous. They brought him onto a waiting transport. Inside, it was quiet, clean. Bright white lights reflected off the walls. No torture tools, no cages. Just silence. Mark sat on the floor, wrists tied, waiting for the pain to come. But when they arrived on our flagship, the shock was worse than anything he expected. As they walked through the corridors, soldiers stopped and stared, not at Mark, but at Commander Zira. Their expressions were frozen. Disbelief, confusion, disgust. One alien dropped the weapon he was cleaning. Another whispered, Mark didn't understand. Why were they all looking at her like that? They entered a large hall, and there in the center was a table filled with food. Alien dishes, steam rising, fragrant smells, soft music played. Zira walked to the table, motioned for the guards to untie him. They hesitated. "Do it," she ordered. With shaking hands, they obeyed. Mark rubbed his wrists, confused. "What is this?" Zira stood still. "This is a Volari war feast. A meal shared only between equals, or enemies worthy of respect before single combat." Mark stared at her. "You're feeding me?" She nodded. "It is tradition." The guards stood frozen. One even took a step back. To them it was clear this was disgusting. Not the food, not the act, but the honor she was giving to a human. Mark sat slowly, not knowing if this was a trap, a test, or something worse, but deep in his chest, a strange feeling stirred. This was no ordinary capture. Something bigger was coming. Lieutenant Mark Danner sat at the long silver table, still in shock. Across from him stood the feared alien commander, Zira Vex. The hall was silent. No one moved. Even the guards standing by the walls seemed frozen, their eyes wide and full of disbelief. The food in front of him looked strange. Glowing fruits, dark roasted meats, and steaming bowls of blue soup. Some of it looked like it could crawl off the plate, but it smelled good, strangely good. Mark glanced around. No one was. Sitting only he and Zira. Why was she doing this? Why was a human soldier being fed like a guest on an enemy warship? Zyra sat down calmly and placed a single clawed hand on the table. Eat, she said. Mark blinked. Is this some kind of game? No, it is Velari tradition, she replied, voice steady. Before battle, warriors who respect each other must share a feast. It honors the strength of the enemy, cleans the spirit. Mark laughed bitterly. So I'm being honored now? You survived my ambush? Few do. That deserves respect. Her eyes met his. And soon we will fight. He stared at her. You're feeding me? So you can kill me after? Guards flinched. One of them looked away in disgust, muttering something under his breath. Another's hands tightened on his weapon, but he didn't move. Their faces showed anger, even shame. To them, this was wrong. In Velari culture, humans were seen as weak, primitive. Feeding one, treating one with honor was disgusting. But Zyra didn't seem to care. Mark picked up a piece of the fruit. It was warm and soft. He took a small bite. The taste was sharp, spicy, and strangely sweet. He chewed slowly, watching her. You're serious, he said. Yes. And after this, we fight. Yes, in single combat. No guns. No armor. Just skill. He put the fruit down. Why go through all this trouble? Zyra looked at her hands for a moment. Her voice grew quiet. Because I need to know. What? If you're truly the enemy they fear, or something more. Mark didn't understand, but something in her voice caught him off guard. It wasn't hate. It was something else. Curiosity, maybe. Loneliness. They ate in silence for a while. The music played softly in the background. The guards didn't touch the food. They watched with cold eyes, their fingers never leaving there. Weapons. After the meal, Zyra stood. Follow me, she ordered. He hesitated. Back to the cell, she shook her head. To the arena. The arena was deep inside the ship-a-wide circular space lit by a high ceiling. The floor was smooth. Stone, old and scarred from many battles. Around them, high balconies were filled with silent soldiers. Velari of all ranks had come to watch. Mark's heart pounded in his chest. He was tired, bruised, and had no real training in alien martial arts. But he had something they didn't, the human will to survive. He stepped into the circle. Zyra stood. On the other side, removing her heavy armor, piece by piece, until only thin combat gear remained. Her body was lean and covered in scars. True warrior. Mark looked around. Whispers filled the air. Many couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their commander, the great Zyra Vex, giving a human this honor, this ritual. To them it was shameful, disgusting. But to Mark it was something more. He wasn't a prisoner now. He was a challenge. Zyra drew a curved blade and tossed another one toward him. It clattered at his feet. He bent down, picked it up, and looked her in the eye. Let's do this, he said, and the circle closed around them. The crowd above the arena was silent. Hundreds of alien soldiers leaned forward, their glowing eyes focused on the circle below. In the center stood two figures. One was the feared commander Zyra Vex, and the other a human soldier from Earth, dirty and bruised, holding a blade too large for his hand. Lieutenant Mark Danner tightened his grip on the alien knife. It was heavier than what he was used to, and the handle didn't fit right, but he didn't show weakness. Couldn't. Not in front of them. Not in front of her. Across from him, Zyra moved slowly, gracefully. She didn't blink. Her feet were light, her hands steady. Her scarred face showed no fear, no excitement, and calm focus. Mark's heart thudded in his chest. He knew he wasn't supposed to win. This wasn't a fight. It was a test. She wanted to see what he was made of. And everyone watching expected him to fail. Zyra stepped forward. Signal had been given. Mark barely had time to react. She struck fast, her blade coming from the side. He blocked it clumsily and stumbled back. She was testing his reactions, faster than I expected. She said, I'm full of surprises, Mark replied, panting. He lunged. She dodged easily. His blade missed by inches. She spun, her leg sweeping under him. He fell hard, dust rising around him. Pain shot through his arm as he rolled to avoid her next strike. The crowd above whispered in their language. Some laughed. Some looked angry. Mark stood, shaking, and wiped blood from his lip. You still want to continue? Zyra asked, tilting. Her head he nodded. We're just getting started. It's time he waited. Let her come. When she did, he moved to the side, using her speed against her. The blade grazed her arm. A small cut, but a cut nonetheless. Gasps echoed through the arena. She looked down at the blood, then at him. And for the first time, she smiled. You learn quickly. Mark's breathing was heavy. Humans adapt. The fight continued. He took hits, small wounds opening on his side and leg. But he also learned her rhythm, her style. He started predicting her moves. Not always, but enough to keep standing. Each time he blocked, dodged, or struck, the murmurs above grew louder. The guards watching began to shift, uncomfortable.
This
wasn't how it was supposed to go. After a sharp exchange, both fighters stepped back. Sweat dripped from Mark's brow. Zyra's chest rose and fell steadily, but her blade had slowed. Why stop now? He asked. She didn't answer right away. Then she lowered her weapon. It is enough. What? That's it? Zyra turned to the crowd above and raised her arm. In the eyes of Valari tradition, she said loudly, this human has proven himself. He is not prey. He is not a prisoner. He is a warrior. A shocked silence followed, then dash anger. Several guards shouted in protest. One even slammed his weapon on the balcony rail. Mark looked around, confused. What are you doing? She turned to him. I ended the fight. You passed the test. This was to the death. Zyra's voice lowered. That was never the goal. I wanted to see the truth. Now I've seen it. Mark stood there, panting, blade still in hand. He wasn't sure what had just happened. Was this a trick, or had he truly earned something? Then he noticed some of the alien soldiers in the crowd were looking at him differently. Not with hate, not with disgust, but with respect. He didn't feel like a prisoner anymore, and something deep inside told him this was only the beginning. After the fight, the arena emptied slowly. Some Valari soldiers stayed behind, whispering in tight circles, throwing confused and angry glances toward their commander. Lieutenant Mark Danner sat on a bench in the resting chamber. His body sore and bruised. His shirt was torn, a cut ran down his side, but his spirit was still burning. He had stood against the most feared warrior in the Dominion, and lived. He heard the doors open. Zyra Vex entered alone, her face calm as always. She carried 2 cups in her hands. You fought well, she said, handing him one. The drink inside was purple and steaming. Mark looked at it. What is this? Something to kill the pain? Help you think clearly. He took a sip. Was bitter, but warm. He waited a few seconds, then asked the question burning inside him. Why did you do all this? Why not just kill me like your people normally do? For the first time, she looked. Tired. Not weak. Just tired. Like someone carrying too many heavy thoughts for too long. I didn't capture you to kill you, she said softly. I captured you because I need you. Mark blinked. You what? She leaned forward. I'm planning something dangerous. Something that could get me executed by my own people. I'm going to betray the Dominion. The words hit him like a punch to the chest. Mark stared at her, unsure if she was joking. You're the commander of their deadliest strike force, he said slowly. You led the attack on Terran Base 7. You burned our colonies. I followed orders. But I see now we're not. Saving our race, we're destroying everything in our path. Even ourselves. Mark stood up, angry and confused. You think a few kind words will make me forget what you've done? No, she replied quietly. I don't expect forgiveness. I expect understanding. You fight for your people. So do I, but now, I want to fight with you, not against you. He paced the room, his heart racing. It didn't make sense. Why him? Why now? What do you want from me? He asked finally. Zira stood too. The Dominion controls everything, but its heart is weak. Corrupt leaders, blind soldiers, broken systems. I want to break it from the inside, and I need someone who thinks differently. Someone who isn't Valari. Why me? 'Cause you're not like the others I've captured. You're clever. You survived, you learned fast, and because I saw how your eyes searched for answers even when you were afraid.
Ow.
That's rare. Mark felt something strange inside him, anger. Yes, but also curiosity. A tiny spark. So you want me to help you start a rebellion? He asked. Zira nodded. Yes, I want you to help me change everything. He sat back down slowly, the cup still in his hand. I should say no, he whispered. You killed people I knew. I know, she said. And one day, you may still kill me for it, but not today. A silence filled the room for a while. Then Mark looked at her, his voice flat. Prove it. Show me something. Show me that you're serious. Without a word, Zira walked to the wall and tapped a control panel. Screen lit up, showing the Dominion's battle plans, command locations, and security codes. All secrets. Mark stared. Right. Why are you showing me this? Because I'm trusting you. Now it's your turn. He looked at the screen, then at her. The woman who had once been his enemy was now asking him to be her ally. And somehow, deep down, he believed her. The air inside the warship felt heavier now. Tension crawled through every hallway like silent fire. Soldiers no longer saluted Commander Zira with pride. They looked away, whispered behind her back, and held their weapons a little tighter. That something was breaking, and Mark Danner could feel it too. After showing him the secret plans of the Dominion, Zira had given Mark a temporary room with access to her inner circle. She called it trust. But not everyone on her ship agreed. That evening, Mark sat at a table inside the officer's chamber, scanning through the alien data she had unlocked for him. Her rebellion plan was real, bold, risky, but maybe, just maybe, it could work. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A loud metallic bang echoed down the hallway. Mark jumped to his feet. He opened the door and stepped into the corridor. Alarms hadn't gone off yet, but something felt wrong. Then he heard shouting. Valari voices, angry, afraid. 2 guards rushed past him. One of them turned briefly and hissed, "Stay in your room, human." But Mark didn't listen. He followed the noise toward the command bridge, staying low. Now as he turned the corner, he saw them 6 armed soldiers, faces full of rage, standing in a half circle. And in the center of them stood Commander Zira, calm but alone. Her second in command, a large Valari male named Trask Velen, stepped forward with his weapon raised. "You've dishonored the Dominion," he growled. "Feeding a human, fighting beside him, sharing war secrets? You are no longer our leader." Zira's eyes remained steady. "I fight for something greater now." "You fight for your own shame," Trask shouted. "We take the ship. We take back the mission." Finished. Mark's heart raced. He saw her hand slowly move toward the blade on her hip, but she was outnumbered. If she fought now, she'd be cut down. He had to do something. Without thinking, Mark grabbed a nearby metal bar from the wall of maintenance rod. He ran into the room and shouted, "Hey!" All 6 soldiers turned. Trask's eyes widened. "You?" Mark stood beside Zira, gripping the rod tightly. "If you want to take her down, you'll have to go through me too." Trask laughed bitterly. "A human defends our commander." "This is a joke." "No," Zira said firmly. "This is change." Before anyone else could speak, Trask raised his weapon, but Zira moved fast. She knocked his arm aside with a powerful kick and twisted his wrist. The weapon dropped. Hitting another soldier in the leg. He screamed and fell. A fight broke out fast and brutal. Mark fought with everything he had. He ducked, blocked, struck, and stumbled. He wasn't as strong as them, but he was quick and clever. He used his size and speed to distract them while Zira fought with deadly skill. Within moments, 3 soldiers were down. 2 more hesitated, then dropped their weapons and backed away. Trask stood again, blood on his mouth, panting. "You lost your army," he spat. "You lost your place." "No," Zira said, walking toward him. "I've found my true cause." And then she punched him hard. Trask dropped like a stone. Silence Ox Ra turned to Mark, breathing heavily. "Why did you help me?" Blood from his lip. "Because you helped me first." She looked at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time, she placed a hand on his shoulder. "We move tonight, before they try again." Mark nodded. The ship was no longer safe. They had to escape and find allies, human or Valari, who believed in something more than power. The war wasn't over, but now they were fighting it together. The ship landed on a quiet moon orbiting the neutral planet Zirian 3, far from Dominion territory. There were no warships here, no soldiers, just diplomats, spies, and people who had seen too much of war. This was where secrets lived. And this was where Mark Danner and Commander Zyra Vex came for help. Mark stepped off the ramp first. The air smelled like metal and dust. He looked up at the sky. The stars were still there, quiet and distant, just like they had always been. But nothing else felt the same anymore. Behind him, Zyra walked slowly, her cloak hiding the familiar armor beneath. Her head stayed down. She knew what humans would think if they saw her face. She was still the butcher of Terran Base 7 Their eyes narked, led her into a quiet, hidden bunker where Earth's High Command had set up a shadow base. 2 human guards stepped in front of the entrance. "She stays outside," one of them said, staring at Zyra with disgust. "She comes with me," Mark said firmly. "No tricks, no weapons. But she speaks." The guards hesitated, then stepped aside. Inside the room, cold lights flickered above a long table. 5 officers sat at the far end, dressed in black uniforms, their faces hard like stone. Behind them stood soldiers, with rifles ready for anything. General Hart, the senior commander, leaned forward. "Lieutenant Danner," he said. "Thought you were dead." "I almost was, sir," Mark replied. "But I came back with something more important than survival." He stepped aside. The room fell silent. Zira walked in slowly. The soldiers raised their rifles instantly, eyes widened. Fingers moved toward triggers. Hart's voice was sharp. "Are you insane, bringing her here?" "She saved my life," Mark said twice. "She killed thousands of our people. She was trying to stop them from killing more." Hart stood. "That thing is the enemy." Mark stepped forward. "No. The real enemy is the Dominion. Zyra wants to break it from the inside. She has codes, plans, locations of their AI war systems, and more. She's lying. Then why would she give me this?" Mark placed a data chip on the table. "It's real. We've checked. Dominion command centers, weak points in their fleets. Proof that their leaders are turning against their own kind?" The officers leaned in, curious now. "She's not asking for mercy," Mark continued. "She's offering a chance to end this war faster with less death, but only if we help her rebellion." Hart looked at Zyra. "Why would we ever trust you?" Zyra raised her head. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Because I'm tired of watching my people become monsters. I've burned enough planets. I want to stop before there's nothing left to save." One of the younger officers, Commander Elise, stood. "What if this works?" she asked. "We send a team to back her rebellion, covert, silent. If it fails, we lose nothing. If it works, we could bring down half their command." Hart stayed quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. "One condition," he said. "The mission is humaned. We can't risk letting her run wild." Mark looked at Zyra. She nodded slowly. "Agreed," she said. "Then it's settled." Hart said, "Lieutenant Danner, you're in command of the strike team." Mark's heart raced. He hadn't expected that, but he stood tall. "When do we leave tonight?" Hart said. "And Danner?" "Yes, sir. If she betrays you, don't hesitate." Mark looked at Zyra for a moment. Her eyes met his. "I won't," he said. But deep down, he wasn't sure if he meant it. The ship flew fast through the silent dark of space, heading straight for the heart of the Dominion, the central control hub where their war AI was kept. Deep inside that fortress was the brain of the enemy. If they could destroy it, the Dominions, control over the galaxy would begin to crumble. Mark Danner sat in the pilot seat of the small strike vessel. His heart beat fast, but his eyes stayed focused. Behind him sat for human soldiers and one Valara commander, Zyra. Vex, the very alien who had once captured him, was now his closest ally. No one spoke much during the flight. Everyone knew the risk. They were heading into the most dangerous place in the galaxy. As the fortress came into view, it looked more like a giant floating city. Red lights glowed from every tower. Enemy ships flew all around. But Zyra's codes got them through undetected. Once they landed in a secret maintenance bay, Zyra led the team through a dark tunnel. She moved like a shadow, confident and fast. The human soldiers followed quietly, trusting her more now than they ever expected. "We're close," Zyra whispered. "The core is 3 levels down. We'll have 5 minutes once we plant the charges." Mark nodded. "Let's end this." They moved quickly through the corridors, taking out guards quietly. Mark used hand signs, and the team worked like clockwork. Every second felt heavy, every breath sharp. Finally, they reached the control core. A massive, glowing structure stood before them, pulsing with light. It was beautiful and deadly. "This is it," Zyra said.
Oh.
"This is what controls the Dominions. Armies." Mark pulled the explosives from his bag. "Let's set it and go." But just as they started planting the charges, alarms blared. A group of Dominion soldiers rushed in, weapons ready. The battle exploded in seconds. Blaster fire lit the room. Smoke filled the air. One human was hit and went down hard. Zyra threw herself in front of Mark, her armor taking the hit meant for him. She cried out but stayed standing. "You okay?" Mark shouted. "Keep planting," she yelled back, limping. But still fighting, Mark finished arming the last explosive. He turned to grab her just as another shot hit her side. She fell to her knees. "Zyra!" he cried, running to her. He pulled her close. "You're hurt bad." She looked up, eyes dimming. "It was worth it. You have to finish this. We finish it together." With the charges set, the team pulled back, dragging Zyra with them. The countdown began 60 seconds. They barely made it to the escape pod before the entire core exploded behind them. The blast lit up the space like a new sun. The Dominion's command fortress had fallen. Later, aboard a human cruiser, Mark sat beside Zyra's hospital bed. She was alive but weak. Her wounds were deep, and she had lost a lot of blood. Still, she smiled when she saw him. "You did it?" she whispered. "No," he said. "We did it." News spread fast. Across the galaxy, Dominion fleets began to fall into confusion. Rebel Valari forces rose up. Human commanders reached out to form new alliances. A new future had begun. One by one, the walls of hate started to crack. Weeks later, Mark stood on a stage at the Earth Valari Alliance base. Soldiers of both races stood side by side, cheering. General Hart spoke first. "We once saw them as monsters. Today we see them as allies." And one man helped build that bridge. Mark stepped up, not wearing armor, but a symbol of peace on his chest. He turned to Zyra, who now walked with a cane but stood tall beside him. "We were enemies," Mark said. "But in the fire of war, we found something stronger than hate-respect. That's what saved us." The crowd stood and clapped. All together, and somewhere in that cheering sea, one Valari soldier whispered to another. Even her guards once stood frozen when she fed a human. Now they would die for him.